I'm going to go ahead and start, and anyone who's late can view it at a later time. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's AMA session on the AUKUS Electronic Warfare Challenge. Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited to see a diverse group of participants here today. My name is Angela Austin, and I work at National Security Innovation Network. We are an organization nested within the Defense Innovation Unit. Our collaboration with DIU focuses on driving innovation within the DoD. Ensign's mission is to build networks of innovators that generate new solutions to national security problems, while DIU focuses more on rapidly delivering capabilities to the military to enhance our defense capabilities. So our collaboration extends to initiatives like this one with AUKUS, where we are aligning our efforts to address key challenges facing our defense landscape. So my role at Ensign is to manage the challenge program and execute challenges like these. And within today's session, we hope to give you a valuable opportunity to discuss and address your questions here and work through some of your insights and opinions on this. I encourage your active participation in this. We're going to have two different methods where you can ask questions. So you can raise your hand and use that tool, or you can go to the little triangular activities button in the lower right corner of your screen. And then if you click on that and scroll down to Q&A, you can enter in your question that way. And it's a little bit easier for us if you do it that way, because if we don't get to all of the questions by the end of this session, we'll have record of that one and be able to answer that and post it on our campaign page. And also, I want to let you know that this session is recorded, and we will provide a link on the IdeaScale campaign page. Once we have this video completed, we'll put it in there, and then you'll be able to review if you want to go back to anything, or anyone who can attend. We'll also have a transcript of the questions and answers from today. Let's see. Also, if at any point during this, if you want to start inputting your questions into the activities button, you can please feel free to do so. So I want to walk us through some initial pieces of the challenge structure and administrative things. And then I'm going to turn it over to our guest, who is a subject matter expert, Dr. Jeffrey Heyer. So to get started, let me scroll my slides. So just some general information here on the timeline. I'm sure you're aware this is posted in the campaign page in IdeaScale, but we have until May 23rd. That's when the submission period ends, and all submissions will need to be received by then. We'll start a down select period where our subject matter experts are going to start working through and scoring those and determine who the finalists are going to be. We will send out announcements by June 27th, notifying you of whether or not you're invited to the pitch event. And then we have the pitch rehearsal scheduled for July 9th, and then the pitch event for July 11th, with the winner being announced on the 25th. For the pitch day, just some details listed here. This is going to be a virtual event. And we have our presentation deck requirements listed here. And with that said, I think I've gone over where you'll be able to find those. And if you haven't noticed already, there is a link in the upper portion of the campaign page where you can click on the link and it will navigate you to the Q&A forum that is also available in IdeaScale. So that's another good place to go if you have any questions that for some reason, aren't addressed here, or you didn't think of them here. We can always address them later on the Q&A forum. Let's see. With that said, I would like to introduce you all to Dr. Heyer, and he's going to provide more insight for us on this AUKUS Electronic Warfare Challenge. He is the Director of Electronic Warfare at the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment. And he's bringing today a wealth of knowledge and expertise to our discussion. So we're thrilled to have you here, Dr. Heyer, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And let me say I'm very excited to be participating in the AUKUS Electronic Warfare Innovation Challenge. So with that, just starting off with the problem statement that we're looking at. Of course, in today's electromagnetic environment, it is very congested, and it is also a contested environment for our operational forces to be working in. And so this challenge is focused on the Department of Defense's electromagnetic spectrum technologies to support both offensive and defensive operations. You can see there in the problem statement, there's the environment requires low-cost, disposable, and highly autonomous capabilities to deliver asymmetric advantage. But I also would like to say that we're also interested in reusable capabilities that could be used on both manned and uncrewed systems. So looking at the key capabilities that we're looking for, it's the standard, what we would call the F2T2EA. So find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess within our kill chains. And so if we can go to the next slide. Oh, well, let me also say here, so in the electromagnetic spectrum, we're interested in both radio frequency sensing, electro-optical, infrared. And then also when you look at this, we'd also be interested in delivery platforms that can bring to the fight different kinds of electromagnetic spectrum effects. Okay, next slide. Okay, this slide just shows the scoring criteria. I'm not going to read every single one to you. I want to touch on a few of these. So, of course, we're looking for innovation here for the innovation challenge, but it needs to be backed up with the feasibility of the proposed solution. Looking for people who can deliver the actual solution that's being proposed. And then in terms of operational alignment, we want the proposed solutions to align with the features, which will be listed in capabilities on the next slides, but also address the problem statement that was talked about earlier. The particular scoring for commercial viability, I would say that there are applications that we'd be very interested in that do not necessarily have non-defense markets associated with those. And so, but in many cases, we would expect just in terms of application to things like law enforcement and border security, there would be a large overlap. Okay, next slide. Okay, on technical features list, we're looking at a broad range of interest in various kinds of sensor capabilities that can provide enhanced target identification, localization, improvements in localization, the ability to target electronic attack capabilities, so being able to deny, degrade, disrupt electromagnetic sensor capabilities, increase our access to the electromagnetic spectrum. So having RF agile kinds of capabilities or moving out of the RF spectrum to be able to achieve a particular capability is of interest, and then deception and denial. Okay, next slide. Okay, in terms of our capability considerations, one thing I want to emphasize is as you go through and develop your proposals and concepts, we're very interested in how the capability would be employed. So what's the concept of employment? That's a big piece of making sure that we understand how the capability that you're proposing actually enhances our warfighting capability. You should specifically address operations in contested electromagnetic spectrum environments. We're interested in how easy it would be to integrate the capability into our existing force. And when you look at the interoperability of the capability, remember this is for AUKUS, so it needs to be able to be integrated into US, Australian, and UK operational forces. And as part of that, we need you to address what the connectivity requirements are for it. How do we interface with it? What are the control standards? And then in terms of the domain, what's the application space? Is it for land, maritime, air, or even space applications? And finally, in terms of cost effectiveness, in terms of your concept of employment, how many systems does it take to actually produce the required capability? And let's see. Yeah, and I think that basically covers the main capability considerations. Okay, so I guess I'll just move on to the Q&A.
Great, thank you so much. So anybody who has a question, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll work our way through the raised hands, or you can also put it in that Q&A post function. Please let me know if you need clarification on how to do that. Let's see here. I believe we just go ahead, Jing Song.
Hi, good afternoon, and Dr. here. Thanks for the introduction. My question is, in your presentation, you asked both offensive and defensive, the electronic warfare. And but if I look at the target, the FFTTEA, it's mostly offensive warfare. Do you interested on technology which we provide to improve your communication resiliency under the digital network environment? Are you interested on those? Like mostly it's more defensive, make the communication much more resilient. Over.
Great, thank you. Dr. Heyer, that sounds like one for you.
Angela, I would recommend that we have that individual post the question and we'll take that for action. And in our response back out with any other questions that we're unable to answer today, we will make sure we include a response.
Great, thanks, Abby. Yes, if you can please put that question in our Q&A box here. And we will be sure to get back to all of those questions following this session. I apologize. I don't think I can actually see the order in which you all raise your hands. I see Christopher McPherson with your hand raised. Can you please go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. I was curious if you could elaborate on the different data that you would include in the EW/EMS spectrum that we could develop capabilities against. And there's a quick follow-up to that is, do you have EW sensor data available, or would that be something, if we wanted to develop solutions against the targeting process, we would be expected to acquire that on our own?
So I can answer that one. We are not releasing data for this challenge. So if you wanted to utilize data in some way, then you would need to find the data in order to be able to do that. We just won't be releasing any for this one. Does that answer your question?
The second part, I was actually curious if you could elaborate on what kinds of data you would include as EMS spectrum, because I'm just a little unsure with what that Venn diagram would look like.
Sure. Dr. Heyer, are you here? Okay, I'm going to ask you if you can also put that question, because
Sure.
That's a more technical question, put that one in the Q&A and we will get back to you on that, because I don't want to miss it, but I can't specifically answer that one myself. So we'll have to follow up there. Well, let's see. Okay, I see Erin Jones. Can you please go ahead?
Yeah, hello, thanks. A few questions, really. So this is hopefully a phase one of a broader engagement, and I didn't know if there was, an understanding of the post-phase one intent yet.
You're wondering about the intentions following the challenge?
Yep.
With the companies?
Yep. Yep. So
generally speaking, we hope to see engagement following our challenge events. Abby, can you speak to any specific follow-on pathways that are potential, or have we not identified anything specific here?
Yeah, absolutely. So DIU is leveraging the prize authority language, which does enable and allow the finalists and winners of a prize challenge to be able to take the fact that you are a finalist and or winner and be able to be eligible to receive a prototype OT or other sorts of contracts after the event. If we have identified any immediate follow-on contracting option to include a prototype OT, we will have included that in our open call language so that it is clear of what the follow-on activity would or could be. So just to make it explicitly clear, the prize challenge activity that we are doing today does culminate in a financial prize award. But it does set the winners up for the ability to receive a follow-on prototype OT if a mission partner so chooses.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks. And so it states in the eligibility criteria, the last bullet here on the idea scale, ability to demonstrate the solution's capabilities by July 2024. So are you looking for, for TRL entrance of 6 or 7 or higher, or is there, potential for any R&D to be involved in the projects? Over.
The missions aren't limited to TRL 6 or 7. I think in any case with a challenge, the overarching objective of meeting the capabilities and technical specifications that are listed is the priority. And sometimes we find something earlier in development that, or the mission partners find something that's in earlier developmental phases is still ideal over some of the more developed options that are proposed. So I wouldn't use TRL and where the company's at as a limitation that we're only focused on a specific area. I think generally speaking, it could fall between 4 and 7, but there's no specific number that we're sticking to, and we're not really using that as a guiding factor for this. Does that answer your question, Aaron?
Yeah, I just, saw the eligibility criteria and didn't know if you were just looking for ready to field products or things that could be developed. So that does help.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a good point, because I think that word demonstrate maybe implies that a little bit more than we intended. So I probably more along the lines of what we're trying to say is ability to showcase within the pitch event what your capability is.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Emmanuel, please go ahead. Okay. Well, let's go to some of the questions that we have listed here. Oh, go ahead, Keith. Please go ahead. Okay. I'm
Hello?
not sure if you all can hear me.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is that low cost based off of actual development or low cost per munition? Like, what's actually considered low cost?
I am going to have to get back to you on that one. I could not provide you with an accurate answer there. So can you please put that one into our Q&A
Oh, yeah.
feature, and I'll be sure that we circle back up with you on that one. It's a good question though. So I'll provide more information on that at a later.
And I had a follow-on question. Yeah.
Sure.
As far as interfacing with existing weapons platforms or missiles and technology like that, that generally will require a joint venture agreement with a major player, especially if you're talking about like a different warhead design or some type of variculator, using microwaves to induce an EMP or something like that. To make that to an existing platform, most small companies like myself would require a joint venture agreement just based off the complexity of it. So like, is that being considered like, yeah, small company, but would enter into a joint venture agreement with Lockheed Martin or Northrop or one of the larger players?
Okay, great. Thank you. Abby, is that something you can provide a little bit more information on?
Yes, as long as the submitting company, who in that context would be the prime, meets our qualifications, yes, that is acceptable.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay, I see Yunjun. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Please go ahead.
Yes. Actually, can we submit multiple proposals? We have so many technologies, so 4 or 5 solutions. So.
Can you submit multiple, you're asking?
Yeah, multiple proposals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you actually can. So you would just create separate ideas in the idea scale platform for each one of those proposals so that they all get evaluated separately.
Yes, okay, I see. And another thing is like the whole system price is actually above the 150K, so it requires a separate contract, but can you still submit the proposal?
Just to clarify, are you saying, can you still submit if you're over the number they have listed for cost?
Yes, yeah. Like the complex system goes, yeah, okay.
I would say yes, because at this point, they don't know what they're going to receive. And if a capability, that may be a common or a common capability or feature that many people can't meet. So I would say absolutely submit, and at least you're getting a good look and some feedback following.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. I still see Keith and Emmanuel. If you can hear me and you still have some questions, please feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, one last question. As far as like the electromagnetic spectrum and engaging different adversary assets, usually do I require security clearance? Because like to get information on that, it's kind of hard. I mean, like you can get it, but like usually you need to know someone who has a security clearance to, figure out whether or not your idea might be, feasible. Right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Like across all assets, specific platforms and things like that to counter or disable.
But you're asking if you need a clearance to be part of this challenge?
Eventually it would have to go into that, right? I mean, is that part of it?
Not for this challenge and for the award associated with this challenge. No part of this is classified.
Okay.
So of course, like the follow-on activities that Abby was talking about, if they were going to if a mission partner was going to work with any of the companies following the challenge and do any follow-on activities, then in that case, that might be required. But for this challenge itself, you're not required to have any clearance, and none of it's classified.
Okay, so everything that's going to put in the actual presentation should just be strictly scientific foundational principles and nothing beyond that, just to show the feasibility of the actual platform.
That's correct.
Okay, I got you. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute before. Regarding
okay.
with the evaluations, will the evaluations evaluated in the U.S. only, or trilateral between the three partners?
So we are going to invite our trilateral partners in this to observe and provide feedback during the pitch events. The scoring itself, though, will be conducted with the subject matter experts associated with the United States. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I had a follow-on, but you answered it with your reply. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see some questions here that I want to work through in the question box. So let's see. Some of these we'll have to get back to because I don't have the technical expertise to answer, but I want to work through the ones that I can. Can we propose to work with partners in other AUKUS countries? Our requirement of US owned and operated is listed in here. However, if you choose to subcontract with the AUKUS countries or subcontract with any other organization, we're not going to discourage that. So it is permitted in this challenge to do so. I saw another question on there regarding similar. Is there any scoring uplift from incorporating inputs from the trilateral countries? There is not, because it's not written into the criteria that a spot where we would include extra points associated with that factor. However, if that's contributing to your overall proposal in a positive way, then it can I can see how it could help you score higher, but there isn't a direct criteria that addresses that or accounts for that, I guess. I see a question on guidelines for proposal length. So the proposal will be submitted in idea scale. And if you go in there and register, you can see what they're asking of you to submit an idea, which is your proposal. Within that, there's an abstract where you will provide public facing information, not very in depth, just a broad generalization of what's your proposal encompasses. And then part of the submission that others can't see is a slide deck that's going to be 10 slides long and go through and explain and address the capabilities and technical features that are listed. So that should address the problem statement and the requirements. So that is the only deliverable that we're asking for regarding the proposal. There are a number of fields in that form when you go in to submit, but most of them are not like you're attaching other files or things like that. It's mostly just filling in information. Okay, I see another one here. If the solution involves several companies, do all have to be from the same country, or can they be from several partner countries? So again, the limiting factor with that specific aspect of companies is that we're requiring them to be US owned and operated in our eligibility. So that would mean if we're including them from anyone from other companies, that the primary is US owned and operated. Colin, I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yep. Hey, so I read everything here and I understand it's a pitch, not a proposal, and I understand the concept, but can you guys walk me through, like, besides the name AUKUS being tagged to this, like, what is AUKUS about this challenge?
Yes. Abby, would you like to speak on that?
Sure. Yes. So what is AUKUS about this? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the AUKUS Pillar II construct, There are several working groups that exist under AUKUS Pillar II. One of those working groups is the Electronic Warfare Working Group. There are representatives from all 3 countries who sit on that working group. The problem statement that was issued in all 3 countries was a trilaterally agreed upon problem statement from the members of the Electronic Warfare Working Group. So the problem statement itself was agreed upon by all 3 countries of being of relevance and importance to their defense needs. So that is one thing that makes this AUKUS. The second thing that makes this AUKUS is that we are using this as the first of what will be more challenges to identify the ways in which the 3 countries can work collaboratively together on activities such as prize challenges, to look to see where we can potentially pool funds, where we can share our subject matter experts and whatnot. So this is the first one where we are working through some of the legislative, political, and et cetera hurdles that exist in a 3-country context, so that future challenges will be more, I guess, AUKUS trilateral in nature. But this one, like I said, was agreed upon trilaterally by EW experts in all 3 countries. And the SMEs will be observing each other's processes and will have the ability to do pull through as they see relevant.
Great. Thank you, Abby. Does that answer your question, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I would love to talk to you guys at some point about how to make the next one more AUKUS. I'm tracking that you're in the situation you're in right now, but a lot of the questions that people are asking here, in my opinion, are highly relevant to something that makes more sense from an actual like AUKUS thing and not just like tagging a name to it or saying, hey, we all met, created a challenge, and we all went off and did 3 separate things. At some point, you know, they'll merge back together, but probably a round down range at this point for this one.
Thank you. And just so you all are aware, I keep deferring some of these questions to Abby. Abigail Desjardins is the Venture Portfolio Director at National Security Innovation Network, and she also has some other roles. So she has been heading up a lot of these working group conversations with the team. And Abby, did you want to take a minute to explain anything else or discuss anything else while we have you on?
Angela, you did a good job of explaining. So the official 2 hats I wear, the Venture Portfolio Director for Ensign, as well as the Deputy Director for Global Partnerships for DIU. So as I mentioned and alluded, this is the first of what will be more AUKUS Pillar II activities and initiatives that DIU is working with our partners in Australia and the UK to deliver. Colin, your point is well taken. It is one that none of us want to be in. We want to be moving towards capability delivery. And so that is the target. That is the end goal for our activities.
Great. Thanks, Abby. Mike, I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, a couple things. First, an admin note. I can get into the site to work on this problem through LinkedIn, but my partner, who's trying to come through the direct site, has to get a 6-digit code, which never comes within the time window the code is valid. You need to have your admin people do some work on your site. But the question is, we're a platform provider, a mobile aerostat, and are looking for partners with different payloads. Would it be better on putting in multiple systems with different payloads with us as the prime, or let the payload people be the prime and we're the sub, rather than us submitting 2 or 3 different things with different payloads?
Angela, I'm going to field this one. So, Mr. Rogers, you are welcome to execute any approach that you feel would be in your company's best interest.
Thank you, Abby. Megan just put a note in the chat. And if all of you haven't seen the email listed on the Idea Scale campaign page, challenges@ensign.mil, it's in the chat. That's who you can direct any of your issues with Idea Scale to. I'm sure there's something on the Idea Scale site you could also ask for help, but that one will take you directly to myself and Megan, who's the project coordinator for Challenges, and we can work through those. Any issues you're experiencing with Idea Scale and troubles with submitting, we can help you solve those problems. So please reach out at that email address. And again, it's in the chat. Please go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks. My question is really about how this challenge is structured across the 3 countries and how you anticipate future challenges might be constructed. This particular challenge, DIU has been a little more, I'll say tight with the amount of funding that they've aligned to it. And also the tight with the restrictions on who is allowed to be a prime to support it. And those restrictions don't appear to be in place in the DASA or the ASCA sections of the challenge on the other countries. So my question really is should we expect this to be the norm for future challenges? Will DIU be always looking for non-traditional businesses and looking to keep the amount of funding that is put in place lower and then reserving judgment later for potential opportunities? Or is this just an entry the first time and it might be different next time and we'll look more like what DASA is doing or more like what ASCA is doing, depending on which of the 3 approaches becomes more productive for the AUKUS trilateral group?
Angela, I'll go ahead and take this one as well. Mr. Hoyle, great questions. And I think that you can appreciate the fact that we finally have a U.S. government budget will help us be able to determine the budget that we can use for future initiatives and activities like this. So we do hope that our FY25 budget lands at an appropriate amount of time for us to plan sufficiently. But I will say it is too early to know, but much to my earlier points, we're using this as a learning opportunity to identify what works. And we will be modifying and changing our approach. What it will look like is too soon to tell. But we do recognize that there are differences between the 3 systems. And that is because we are using 3 different systems and 3 different processes. As I said, we will be doing a postmortem, which is a terrible term, multiple times throughout the execution of this challenge as an AUKUS working group, and will be determining appropriate next steps for the execution of future activities.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Abby. Okay, I see a question posted. Is DIU more interested in this capability for a given domain, for example, maritime? To answer your question, there isn't a specific focus area outside of what is already listed on this list or on the campaign page in Idea Scale. There's no emphasis other than the capabilities and technical requirements that are listed there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went out of turn. My apology.
Oh, no, you can go ahead. I'm just trying to get through some of these questions in the box. Please feel free to go ahead.
Can we show in our presentation basic warhead design, but not the actual full warhead design? Because it's going to be mated to different systems, which may actually change, whether or not it's a time varying magnetic field or a capacitance magnetic field. That's going to change how the setup would be. So, for example, if we were to mate it to an artillery shell, it's capacitance. If we're going to mate it to a drone, it's time varying. So that's 2 different warhead designs. So should we show that in a basic form within the presentation to show that it is technically feasible, or should we just leave the equations on there and people will understand that from the equations is technically feasible.
Angela, do you mind if I jump in? As
Oh,
well?
yeah.
Mr. Young, I would recommend that you follow whichever approach makes the most sense from a business standpoint. You are free to pursue whichever option you feel is best. I do ask that you keep in mind that these are unclassified activities, and so do want to make sure that everyone keeps things at the unclassified distro A level.
Okay. I got it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, in our pitch format, just so everyone's aware of what that looks like, there will be a 5-minute presentation, pitch presentation, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. So just be aware that during that 5 minutes of Q&A, the subject matter experts will have the opportunity to draw out additional information. So that's also there in case you didn't know what that format looked like, and that would be there. Okay, I'm just going back to some of these questions that are listed here. If you have anything else in the meantime while I'm looking through here, please feel free to raise your hand. Apologies, I'm trying to find something that is not super technical that I can actually provide you a good answer for. Please go ahead, Mr. Sin.
Hi, just wondering how many winners are there going to be?
So for this one, let me just defer back to our open call announcement really quickly before I misspeak. Okay, so for this one, we have 150,000 that's listed on our site available to the top performing companies. We have not listed a specific number, so that means the judges will have will make the determination whether they want to award just the top performer, or maybe there are 3 that they decide on. That's going to be up to their discretion, and the top performers will be awarded, or perhaps just 1. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Please go ahead, Mr. Nelson. We can't hear you, Mr. Nelson. Maybe you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I posted this in the chat too, but is it a requirement that you already have to have certified your approach as non-ITAR controlled?
I can't answer that one. I don't know if you can, Abby. We may need to circle back up with you on that one.
No, not at this time.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. So I see a question about regarding demonstrations by July 2024, and I'm not actually, I think, Mr. Rogers, I think we already addressed this question. Let me keep going on these questions. Okay, will there be a potential teaming list of willing industry partners available prior to the submission closure? No, we don't have that built into this challenge to create a teaming list of industry partners. So we are not providing that. Okay, I see a question regarding AUKUS that Abby, you might be able to answer. It says, would projects that align across the AUKUS trilateral partnership that stand on their own but complement each other be seen as helpful with this competition, or it doesn't matter?
For the purposes of evaluation, it does not matter, but it is something that we would see.
Thank you. I see a question about the evaluation process, and it says, can you please elaborate further on the evaluation process for this challenge? Are all solutions evaluated by DIU only, then passed on for AUKUS level evaluation? No, we have subject matter experts who will be participating in the capacity of judging in this challenge. I don't recall from where all of them are, but a number of them are from the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense. And I'm not sure, Abby, you might be able to chime in on this if any were from DIU, but the process is that the subject matter experts identified will go through and conduct the scoring for each criteria listed. And then from there, on the initial down select, we're willing to share submissions with our AUKUS team, and they're able to see what what has been submitted and comment on it, but their input is not translated into scores. Same with the pitch event. I see a question. Actually, sorry, some of these, I'm just reading through them. I know we already answered that one. Mr. Rogers, please go ahead.
I'm afraid I'm taking advantage of your platform here, since there won't be a teaming list. As I mentioned earlier, we do need team partners with actual EW hardware. I have placed my contact stuff in the chat if anyone on the call wants to copy that off and get up with me offline. But like I say, we provide a platform to elevate EW for better line of sight and better capability, but we don't do the payload itself. So any partners out there, feel free to contact me at that email. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And we will take that into consideration for future challenges, that there is a desire to add that component. So thank you for that. Mr. Dufford, please go ahead.
Yes, follow-up question regarding your response just then with the AUKUS partners. I understand that the scoring will be and the submissions, what those were would be offered to the AUKUS partners for their visibility, not necessarily their input.
You're breaking up a little bit, but what I'm understanding, or I think you said, is are our partners with AUKUS going to review submissions potentially and provide any feedback to us? Is that your question?
Exactly what I was saying was that what I took from your answer was that the scoring for the U.S. challenge evaluations that's going to be done internal to the U.S. It sounded like entries that are submitted and the U.S. evaluation will be presented to the AUKUS partners for their review, not necessarily their input, right? So they'll see what opportunities were submitted, but not necessarily make not just the people that get the pitch opportunity, but all the ones that were not scored high enough to reach that.
Yes, you're correct. They will have the opportunity to look at those and access those submissions. But part of our process is not that they're required to provide feedback, but they will certainly have access and the opportunity to view those. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Please go ahead, Mr. Rogers.
One question regarding the winner will be announced on July 25th, and you also will need to be able to demonstrate it sometime shortly thereafter. Do you have either a timeline of when you think that might be, and do you have any idea of the location that might be, or is that entirely dependent on who wins and the nature of what the winner is? Over. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the demonstrate solutions capabilities is talking about the pitch event itself. So in the pitch, through your pitch deck and presentation, we were referring to that as the demonstration of your solutions capabilities. There isn't a separate event. The pitch event is the final event in which the winners will be determined. Following that, there isn't a follow-on demo or anything like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see a question that says, does the proposed effort have to be executed entirely within 150K, or is that to do a feasibility study demonstration and pin? So I think this is going back to the parameters of cost associated listed on this on the open call announcement. So
Angela,
any of the, yeah.
sorry, if I can, I think the question is more speaks to the mechanism by which we're executing this challenge. We, as I mentioned, we are leveraging prize authority, which allows the United States government to provide monetary or non-monetary awards to vendors or individuals who demonstrate a capability of interest to the U.S. government. This is money that is non-deliverable based. This will be electronic fund transfer to the winners as a combination of the prize challenge, not immediately following, because there is always paperwork, but shortly thereafter.
Great, thanks for clarifying, Abby. Okay, well, that was the last question on our list here that I think we have the background to address here. The others we will be following up on, unless Megan or Abby, you see anything that I missed that we can address here. Please go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
One other question before we break up is there any, does it go against the principle of this competition if you have a larger or traditional defense company that kind of subcontracts to a small business or goes behind a small prime to answer this?
No, it does not, as answered earlier.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, I think that's all I see here. Oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, is the slides going to be available to participants here?
Yes, this is being recorded. So following this, we will, in about a week, we'll have this posted. There will be a link under the campaign page and idea scale in the top portion, or perhaps, actually, Megan, where are we linking that in the Q&A forum or up top in the campaign page?
That will be linked in the Q&A forum.
Okay, so when you go to the campaign page, you'll see like an overview section, and within that, there's a link to go to the Q&A forum. So this video will be there in the Q&A forum, and then also a transcript of all the questions that were asked, so that each one will be identified and answered in that Q&A forum.
That's in about a week, you said? Or
Yes, it should be about a week when we get that up.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great. Well, is there anything else before we go?
Thank you for answering all the questions.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad we had a good turnout, and we had lots of questions, lots that we need to get back to, but I encourage you to reach out to challenges@ensign.mil if anything else comes up, any issues with IdeaScale. Megan and I are happy to field those questions. Otherwise, thank you again for being here, and we look forward to seeing some of your proposals.